I'm Rachel. I'm from the mountains of Western Maryland, and I'm interested in and enamored by the natural world and all of its wonders. Yeah, I grew up in a pretty rural part of Maryland, and we had a pine grove in the backyard, and I would run around outside all the time, looking at all the bugs and everything. And then I would come inside and I would draw butterflies and flowers and caterpillars and everything that I had seen outside. And from the minute that I could hold a pencil, that's what I was doing. And still this day, I go outside every morning, check out all the mushrooms that have popped up overnight, say hello to the plants in the garden, and yeah, I've kind of developed this relationship with the land and the more than human beings in the world, and that's what drives me to create. I started art when I started making. I started mostly with drawing and painting, and then I moved into some sculpture and was working with some resins and all of these materials that I one day realized would outlive me. Plastics and acrylic paints and pigments that are toxic, and yeah, one day it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks that stuff was going to end up here on this earth for hundreds of years, and never decompose and kind of keep contributing to our environmental issues. So ever since that day, I've kind of worked to make sure that I'm only using biodegradable materials, that all of my works are impermanent. They decompose within the span of a human life or shorter. And there's a lot of, I guess when you see my work, you'll never see it in the same state. Because of that, I'm working with living beings in my sculptures and installations, and things that will fall apart and live and die and decompose and become something new, and that's something that's really important to me. This work is really new for me, and not necessarily. I guess it's been a few years since I've been working with biodegradable materials. I started playing with that right before I started this program, and found that this would be like the perfect opportunity to expand upon that. But this work in particular is special because it's also really personal and bodily, which is not something that I ever incorporated before. I would make work about the natural world, and it would have that kind of imagery, but the materials wouldn't quite line up. So now I'm kind of focusing more in on the materiality of all of this and how I can relate it to my body and to the bodies of others in my ecosystem. My intent here is to, really break down the barriers between human beings and more than human beings, but it's a little bit more complicated than that, because we're in a time of environmental crisis, and we are so incapable of dealing with this like massive culture of death around us, ecologically and otherwise. I feel like we're not equipped to deal with that, and a lot of it comes from, in Western culture, our inability to like deal with our own personal deaths, our own personal bodies, and how they relate to the world. So I'm really working to tie those things together and create an alternative framework for understanding the crisis that we're in and how we can relate to the other beings in this world. When you encounter my work, I would love for you to fall into it and to smell the soil beneath your feet, to brush up against the thorns, to smell the scent of the live mushrooms that are living and breathing the same air as you, and to see yourself in it, and kind of enter into another world, into this in-between space.